Hello everyone, this is Direwolf20, and welcome to part 2 of my mod spotlight on Witchery. Direwolf20 wearing a witch's hat and looking classy. Yeah, I'm excited to check out part 2 of Witchery. There's a bunch of cool stuff that I haven't even gotten to yet. There's a bunch of items we're going to take a look at. If we look here in NEI, we'll see there's just a ton of stuff that we haven't even touched on. But we've got a bunch of more circle rituals. I want to show you just a few of them. Like I said, there's 70 pages in this book, so obviously we're not going to show you every single ritual. It's up to you to download the mod and start playing with it and checking out some of these crazy things. But I will show you a couple of the really neat ones so you can get a feel for what this mod can do. I'm also going to then show you guys how to do infusions. You can actually infuse the player with some magical abilities, and you can infuse some items with some magical abilities that let you do some really cool stuff. You can also get yourself some familiars to help you out with some of your magic, and you can also build your own witch's coven to help you make your magical circles even more powerful. And even a few circles require a witch's coven. Like, you can't cast these things without having a witch's coven available. And there's a couple really cool and neat items. There's one that I'm really excited to show you. It has to do with, let's just say, controlling the undead, and it's pretty cool. Alright, so let's get started taking a look at part 2 of the Witchery mod spotlight. So one of the rituals I want to show you is the Rite of Glyphic Transformation. This is kind of neat. I showed you in the last spotlight that you can absorb your circles into a circle talisman for easy transportation and relocation and moving. But if you want, you can also on the fly change them. It just requires an Arthana, a piece of gypsum, and one of the ritual chalks that you're going to need there. Just right click it and it's going to absorb everything and automatically poof. There we go. It converted it into the other color chalk. Pretty neat. Just another way to mess around with the circles. It won't use up your Arthana, by the way. There's a couple items that are just required for part of your ritual rites, and if you go ahead and use them, it won't get them used up. Awesome. So we've seen how to do that. Let's also look at another component here. Let's look at the Attuned Stone. So the Attuned Stone is kind of a way, think of it like a battery. What you can do with it is use it for on-the-go power. So let's make one real quick. So basically we need an attuned stone and some glowstone dust. So let's see, attuned stone, you can see here is that diamond, lava bucket, and whiff of magic like we saw earlier. We also need some glowstone dust. Cool. We can grab some redstone, wood ash, and quicklime. Redstone, wood ash, and quicklime. We also saw the recipe for most of these last episode. So toss all this stuff into the center of the circle and give it a go right click. And as we can see here, it actually needs an altar or a shape of 7 by 7 and 11 by 11. So what we should do is go ahead and lay out an 11 by 11 circle in addition to this 7 by 7 circle. So let's pick this one up and find a better, more open space to do some of our rites. Let's grab the circle talisman and the redstone dust and absorb what we've got right now. Thank you. And just because I like to cheat and save myself a little time, I'm going to pull out of NEI the medium ritual size circle so that I don't have to lay it out myself. These aren't craftable, by the way. You can't make the circles yourself. You just have to, lay the circle out yourself the first time. So let's get some open wide space here. So let's lay down our 7 by 7 circle and we'll do our 11 by 11 circle here. That's what we need to get this Rite of Binding going on. So let's try that again. I know I need another piece of redstone. And we're going to combine this, the quicklime, and the attuned stone. Now it should activate. So again, it's really important to pay attention to the size and shape of circles required. And we should get a charged stone out of that. Nice. So that, of course, used up some of the power out of our altar, as indicated here. It's going to use up 2,000 power. Now what we can do is in some recipes, you'll see that there's actually two of them. So the Rite of Binding, for example, that we saw earlier, that binds a waystone to a location, you can go ahead and use either 500 altar power or a charged attuned stone. And you won't need an altar nearby to actually do this work. Pretty cool, right? So here's an example of using the charged attuned stone. Say you're out in the field and you've laid down a circle to do a little bit of magic and you want to pick it back up. Normally you drop down your piece of redstone in your circle talisman and activate it. It's going to go ahead and use up those items, but then it's going to say, hey, there's no altar nearby to draw power from. As we can see, that requires 1,000 altar power. So instead, I'm going to throw down a circle talisman, a glowstone dust, and an attuned stone. Let's try that out. And activate. Cool. So it actually used up some of the power. It's no longer charged, so we do have to go recharge it before we can use this Attune Stone again, but it allowed me to do the ritual without an altar nearby. How awesome is that? So you're going to want to reference your Rites of Binding or your different rites available in your book here, the Witchcraft Circle Magic book, because not everything can be done with a charged stone. Some things have a charged stone recipe and it'll be indicated in the book. Other things do not. Alright guys, let's take a look at familiars. Now familiars are an interesting mechanic in Witchery. What it does is allows you to have stronger effects on some of your magics if you have a bound familiar. Now there's 3 types of familiars that you can bind to yourself. Either an owl, a toad, or a cat. Now the cat's obvious, it's an ocelot. You just have to get a pet ocelot, tame him, and you'll be able to bind him as a familiar. And binding a familiar has certain positive effects on the player, as well as on the magical constructs that you're going to be making and doing. Your other types are toad and owl, which are obviously new creatures that I'm going to introduce to you guys in just a moment here. But for now, let's bind ourselves a cat familiar, because I mean, it's the Witchery mod, we have to have a pet cat, right? That's how it's going to go. So let me tame an ocelot, and I'll be right back. So there's a couple things we need to do to prepare ourselves to bind a familiar. First off, we're going to need to get ourselves a pretty powerful altar. It has to be up to power of 8,000. So I managed to do that by increasing the crazy amount of natural plants and life stuff near my altar. Remember I told you that the more living things near your altar, the more trees and plants and pumpkins and watermelons and flowers, all this stuff contributes to the amount of power that your altar can store. And I've got it up to 8,270, which is a pretty powerful altar, I think. So that's one of the first steps. The second step is we need to get ourselves one of the components here, demonic blood. Ooh, that sounds scary. What we need to do is get ourselves in a distillery some diamond vapor, which is also a distillery recipe. You just have to distill some diamond. But then the other part you need is demon heart. These things are a little tricky to come by, so why don't I show you how to get those? Then once we have the demon heart, we can get ourselves the demonic blood, and we can start binding a cat familiar to our player. So in order to get a demon's heart, we're going to have to summon a demon. And for that, we're going to need some Infernal Chalk. The Infernal Chalk's a little bit harder to come by. You have to get that Ember Moss and some Rose Red and a Blaze Powder. And the Infernal Chalk looks really cool when it's on the ground. So let's go through the ritual for summoning a demon. So there's a couple different ways to summon a demon. I'm going to go with this method here: Refined Evil, Blaze Rod, Ender Pearl, Attune Stone, and Attune Stone charged with an altar requiring 3,000 power and a 15-sized circle. So let's get this demon summoned. Refined Evil, Ender Pearl, the stones that we need, and a Blaze Rod. Go. Hey there. Oh boy, that guy hurts. Take that, mister. Oh boy, he really hurts. So obviously demons are a little bit of a nasty entity, and they're not just going to hand over their hearts, and be friends with you. No, not at all. You can either kill them, which is obviously a pretty tricky thing to do. If you manage to kill them, good for you. They're not terribly difficult to kill, but there is a better way. There we go. Oh, doesn't look like I got a demon heart this time. That's unfortunate. Hey, remember this Rite of Imprisonment? Monsters cannot leave the circle. Lasts indefinitely, but requires 16 power a second. That shouldn't be a problem. Let's activate it. Cool. Now the problem is when I go to activate this circle again, it's going to probably turn off that Rite of Imprisonment. So why don't I show you guys a neat feature of this mod. If you want to activate multiple rites at a time, go ahead and drop all the components down. And it's going to go ahead and activate them in order. Now typically it kind of follows the order that the rites exist in the book. So if I activate this, it should activate the Rite of Imprisonment first, and then go ahead and start running and activate the summoning. Cool. So let's see what happens. Nice. And he can't get out. Oh, but watch out. He will throw fireballs at you, which is kind of nasty. So your goal here is to kind of find a place where he's not going to throw fireballs, but also can't hit you in melee range. And if you do find that little bit of a sweet spot, you'll be able to trade with him just like you can trade with villagers. And he'll have a couple different things that you can trade. Oh, there we go. For 30 gold, we can get a demon heart. Nice. So be a little bit careful with this. It's obviously, you have to find just the right spot where he's close enough to you that he won't throw fireballs, like I said, but far enough away that he won't be able to hit you with melee damage. This looks pretty good. Yeah, so let's get some gold. and go ahead and trade him and get a couple demon hearts. Nice. Now, if memory serves me correctly, there is a way to banish your demon. Let's see if we can find it. So let's see, here goes nothing. It only requires some blaze powder. Banish him. Nice! We managed to do it. Cool. Yeah, I died a couple times, but you know what? I didn't have any armor on either. Alright, let's absorb this circle, because we don't want it to be here anymore. And we're going to lay down a small and medium circle, getting ready to bind our little pet cat, Schrodinger. Come here, buddy. So here goes nothing. A Tear of the Goddess, Odor of Purity, Whiff of Magic, Demonic Blood, and a diamond. And make sure to have your cat familiar nearby. Oh boy, things are happening. Hooray! We've got Schrodinger, who now has 50 out of 50 health. He's Witchery, as we can see, and he is now my pet familiar. Cool. So you can read the details on the wiki about all the benefits of all the different familiars. The cat familiar here gives you better control over curses. Now this guy is going to be with you pretty much forever until you get yourself a new familiar. Otherwise he basically just acts like a regular old cat. You can tell him to stay put. You can also dismiss him if you want by shift right clicking with an empty hand if you want to get rid of him. He'll also be dismissed if he's killed or if the owner of the familiar is killed. So any of those conditions could cause your cat to get dismissed here, like so. And when he is dismissed, he's not going to give you the benefits of being a familiar, so you won't have improved curses when he's not here. Some of the other benefits of your familiar are to get you, I think it helps to share a little bit of damage. So basically, a small portion of damage will be sent to the familiar instead of the player. And that's just if it exists at all, and you'll get even a little bit of a better boost if the familiar happens to be nearby. I think you'll take on up to like 10% of the damage or so. So it's pretty nice to have a familiar. It boosts your abilities. Now, owl and toad familiars will give you other benefits. Owls will allow you to do a little bit better flying on a magic broom, which we're going to check out in a little bit here. And toads are going to help you out with brewing, so you'll be able to brew better potions with the toad familiar. Why don't I show you guys how to get back your familiar, by the way, if you do happen to have it banished. Let's take a look. There you go. The Rite of Summoning will summon your familiar that has been dismissed or killed. Breath of Goddess, Hint of Rebirth, Whiff of Magic. There we go. Come back to me, Schrodinger, from beyond. Hey there, buddy. Nice to see you again. So how do you get owls, you might ask? Well, that's actually kind of tricky. The owls and the toads are going to need to be mutated from other creatures. Let's get started along the process. The first thing you're going to need to do is track down an ent. Ent are animated living trees, but they don't just spawn in the wild like normal. You actually have to kind of anger the nature spirits a little bit in order to get them to spawn and start defending what you are attacking, which is basically other trees. So any witchery trees, not vanilla trees like spruce or whatever, but witchery trees like the rowanwood and the alderwood, those trees, if you start cutting them down in large quantities, you're going to eventually get an ent to spawn. To speed up this process, I'm going to demonstrate this by spawning it directly with a spawn egg, but to get this legitimately, you're going to need to chop down these trees. Go ahead and find an ent. Hello there, Mr. Ent. Ah, and they hurt too. They have quite a lot of health, as you can see. They're almost like a boss. So make sure you've got some good armor. Oh, and they actually seem to have a bone mealing effect wherever they walk. That's interesting to note. Now, a good bet is to attack with your Arthana to kill them, to get a better chance of maybe getting what you need to get. But what I'm going to do here is take care of this Ent, and then show you what you're going to get from them. There we go. That's what you get from killing an Ent. Ent twig. So what we're going to need to get is a Mutating Sprig, which is a combination of an Ent twig, which we just saw how to get, and some Mutandis extremis. We saw how to make Mutandis earlier. Well, if you combine that with some Netherwort, you'll get an extreme form of Mutandis, and you'll be able to get the Mutandis extremis. So let's get ourselves a Mutating Sprig and see what we can do with it. Among some random uses like being able to convert dirt into mycelium and back, and there's a couple other specific things you can do with this sprig, you're able to create a couple specific and very unique items and blocks that you can go with. Let's go ahead and make one of those right now. So in order for this thing you want to make right here, it's called a critter snare, and it's actually pretty neat. Place some water down, and then place 4 alder saplings all around it, and a cobweb in the middle. Then get a zombie to walk into that cobweb. Dun dun dun. And mutate the entire contraption with the Mutandis extremis, and you should get critter snares. Hey there guys, how's it going? The critter snares are going to snare critters, basically just the way it sounds. In particular, in this case, we want to snare ourselves some bats. So let's spawn a bat or two. There we go. So I can see I just spawned a bat right there, and they got trapped in the critter snares. Hey guys, how's it going? Cool. Now what's actually neat is you can pick up these critter snares, and it contains the creature that was trapped. So we can go ahead and pick them up and carry these trapped bats around. Awesome. If we want to release the bats, it's not a big deal. Simply shift right click with an empty hand. And ta-da, the bat is free. See you later, bat. Or get trapped again. It's up to you. Haha. Gotcha. So let's see what we can do now that we've got these ensnared bats. So now that we've got the owls, we need to basically combine owl DNA and wolf DNA. It's a little bit of a magical gathering here that we're going to do to get these two creatures to mutate together. So let's ensnare our 4 bats. You can actually do 2 to 4 bats. You need at least 2, at most 4. And then you're also going to need some grasper plants. Grasper plants are pretty neat. Let's take a look at them. So to get your grasper plants, you basically need a chest and some tall grass and above a little bit of a water block like I have here. Right click with your Mutating Sprig and ta-da, grasper plants. Cool, you can pick these guys up too. These are neat, they can actually hold any item at all. So just go ahead and right click and the item is stored in there. Right click again to get it back. It'll hold anything you want. Awesome. So the grasper plants are going to be used here in just a moment to get ourselves a mutated owl. So, graspers in the corners. And then we're going to want the critter snares on the sides. We're going to want another cobweb to hang out right in the middle. Right there. Cool. In the grasper plants, you're going to need to get one of those attuned stones, and you're going to need it charged. So make sure you charge your attuned stone and place it in there. And then the other 3 things are going to be some of the extremis mutandis. So 3 of those in the other grasper plants. You, and you, and then finally a wolf. Or a dog. You can make it friendly if you want. But get him in there, and then you're ready to go. Mutate these guys using a Mutating Sprig. Let's see, gotta get it. Ah, there you are. Hey, owls. Ah, they're flying away. So be careful, they can occasionally fly away. If you have some raw pork chops on you, you can kind of get them to hang out nearby and maybe even interest them in some food. And then you can tame them, just like you can tame ocelots. Come here, guys. Let's be friends. So it might be a good idea for you to go ahead and create a cage for this kind of thing before you summon your owls, but treat them basically like you would a cat, and you'll be able to tame them and get them to follow you around. And the cool thing about it is you can even get these guys to breed. So if you do have 2 owls that are like kind of friendly to you, you can feed them raw pork chops here and they'll breed and create baby owls. And the same process for toads, just slightly different mutations. I think it involves slime balls. You guys are going to have to go involve it yourselves and check it out exactly how to do what you want to do with toads if you're interested in going that route for your familiar. So you can see there's just so much cool stuff going on here in Witchery. I mean, we're mutating owls from dogs and bats. What more can you want from a mod? Now, one of the things about this mod is there's a lot of choices you have to make about which path you want to go down. An example is the familiars. You can really only have 1 bound familiar at a time. You can easily bind yourself another familiar, so if you have the cat and you want to go with the owl, just bind the owl, and then the cat will convert from a bound familiar to become just a normal old cat again. He won't be your bound familiar anymore until you maybe infuse it again, and you can do it. Another thing is infusions. Infusions are a way to infuse your character or items with some magical powers and properties. Now, the items, you can collect all of them, I believe. I don't think there's any limitations on the item creation. However, your player can only be infused with 1 magical aspect at a time, and there's 4 to choose from. The infusion of light, the infusion of the overworld, the infusion of otherware, and the infernal infusion. And each of these give you some really neat abilities, some passive and some active abilities to allow you to cast different spells and do different things. Let's take a look at infusing the player first, and then we'll take a look at infusing some of the items that are available out there. So if you take at the Rite of Infusion here, you can see Ghost of the Light is the item that you need to infuse yourself with the Light Infusion ability. Now, this is going to be pretty tricky, so be careful. This is actually also pretty dangerous. So what you're going to need to do is get yourself some Ghost of the Light. If we take a look at that in NEI, we can see it's a kettle recipe that's going to require the tongue of a dog, a torch, a fire protection poppet, and also some redstone soup, which is another brewing component here, a potion of invisibility, and a potion of fire resistance. So a couple pretty expensive things that you really have to work towards, a bit of brewing to do and a bit of magic, but once you've got your Ghost of the Light here, and you also notice that you get 2 of these from the recipe, so that's kind of nice. You can go ahead and infuse your player with it. But I'm going to warn you guys, if you go ahead and just toss this right in here and say, alright, let's go, infuse the light me, let's do it. Bad things happen. You get killed by magic. You need to protect yourselves before you go start infusing magical power into your player. A good solution is a voodoo puppet. Death protection poppet. This will protect whoever's tag locked to the poppet from death of any form, including this ritual we're about to perform. So the death protection poppet now bound to Direwolf 20, hanging out in my inventory. Let's go ahead and try this infusion again. Here goes nothing. I survived! Hooray! You'll also notice a magic meter on the left-hand side of my screen. This goes to show you how many times or how much of the active powers you can go ahead and use. Now, one of the things you're going to need to be able to do this is a witch hand. Witch hands are not the most easy thing to come by, but if you have an Arthana on you, it'll probably help out. You're going to want to find some vanilla witches out in the world. So let's see. We're going to get a spawn witch egg. There we go. We'll get a few of them because I don't think it's a common drop, but let's see. Hey there, witch. Go ahead and make sure to kill it with the Arthana. Ow, throwing potions at me, are you? And occasionally, rarely, you'll get a drop. Oh, I got lucky, first time. A witch's hand. Cool. This is going to be used for some of the magical stuff we're going to be doing. So what are some of the powers that you get as a result of the Infusion of Light? Well, first off, it doesn't have any passive powers like some of the infusions do. But what you can do is hold right-click, and you will become invisible. Oh, look at that. Where'd I go? I went invisible. You can also right-click while sneaking on top of a block, boom, to create a 3x3 barrier that only you can walk through. Other people or players or monsters will not be able to. You can also create a nice little land bridge by, I believe, it's right-clicking on the side of a block. So if we do that, ta-da, we get a nice little bridge to walk across. It doesn't go out forever, but it definitely is pretty cool. It's a nice way maybe to cross a lake if you're trying to escape from some enemies. Dun 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 dun. Get away from me, bad guys. Wonder if it'll work on another light bridge. It will. Ha, that is cool. They dissipate after a while, so don't hang around too long, but do keep in mind. See, look, it already disappeared. But yeah, very neat. Now, there are some defensive things you can do in a pinch, like shift right-click on this thing to encase him in a light barrier so he can't get through. So just shift right-click on an enemy, either another player or a monster, and trap them like so. You can also just regular right-click, I believe, or is it left-click? There we go. Tosses them up in the air and traps them in a light barrier. See you later, zombie. Haha, look at that. So they're trapped up there. You know, they're going to have a bad time. That's cool. So those are some of the Infusion of Light powers that are available. But you can also see on my left-hand side with all this magic casting I'm doing, it's draining some of my player's infusion. And there's a ritual that you can do to refill that bar. Now, if you want to infuse yourself with another power, it's no problem. You just are going to overwrite your light infusion, and you're going to have to, you know, have a different, you know, power bar, and you're only going to be able to do one infusion at a time, is basically what it comes down to. You just have to perform the other ritual to get another infusion. Let's check out one more, and then you guys can check out the others yourselves. So let's check out the Infusion of Otherware, which requires some of this purple stuff. Make sure you have your Voodoo Protection Doll on you, and ooh, that's a cool looking mana bar over there. Let's see what we can do. Once again, we're going to need our Witch's Hand to be able to operate our magics. Simply right-click to teleport a short location. Oh, that's cool. You can't go too far with it, unless, of course, you hold right-click, and then you'll be able to charge it up and teleport a much further distance. That is nice. Look at that. Too far, hold mouse button longer to teleport further. There we go. Almost. There we go. Look at that. Oh, it tells you when it's done. Nice. So you can see it's teleport charged, release mouse button to teleport. Oh, that is neat. You can do a couple other things, too, such as shift and hold right-click, and when you hear a little sound, release mouse button to set recall point. Nice. What do you think this does? I think it's pretty obvious, isn't it? Shift right-click, and you teleport back to that position. Awesome. And you can teleport back to that position, and you can teleport back to that position pretty much as often as you want, and you can just hold shift right-click to set a new recall point. I like this one. This might be one of my favorites so far. Come here, sheep. You're going to be my guinea pig. Let's see what we do if we left click on an enemy. Oh, we're teleported up into the air. Haha, that's cool. You can keep clicking, but make sure to like right click and get back to Earth before you take fall damage. That's funny. And if you really want to, you can hold sneak and hold left click, and it'll teleport you back to your recall point. So maybe you set your recall point back at your base where you have some defenses set up, and then somebody's attacking you in the wild. Just shift left click on them, it'll teleport you back to that recall point, both of you. And guys, believe it or not, we are not done yet. We're not even close to done. So there's no way I can finish this in a 2-part spotlight. We're going to have to come back for part 3. There's a bunch more items to check out. A couple more mechanics that I still haven't shown you, like dream weaving and entering another dimension, which is added by this mod. Some really cool and powerful items like magic wands that you can use to cast spells. We're going to have to infuse a couple items to get there first. So why don't we come back in part 3 of the mod spotlight. Hello, Mr. Owl. How are you? That is awesome. And we're going to go ahead and check out some of the other stuff that's available in Witchery. And I have to remind you guys, this is version 0.15. This guy considers this mod like not even close to done. It's not even close to 1.0. He has so much stuff planned, to get going with this mod. I, am just pretty much blown away by how much is already here and how much has been added in the short time that the mod has been out. So for now, this is Direwolf20 signing off on part 2 of the Witchery mod spotlight. We'll be back for part 3 pretty soon. Alright guys, take it easy!